Brahafo Regional Security Council gives 2-week ultimatum for Dokochina residents cited in Galamsey activities threatening Bui Dam to relocate. International relations expert urges President Mahama to address domestic challenges if he is to succeed in his new role as Ecowas chairman. And so Commissioner for Judgment Debts adds to calls for decoupling of Attorney General's office from Ministry of Justice. We also have business news, sports, showbiz, and international news all coming up in this bulletin, which is also available on ABN television in London and across Europe. Stay tuned.
News at 8 with Israel Live.
Now, very first story. Finance Minister said Tekwe has reiterated a number of measures being implemented by government to improve the economy, assuring that it may take more than a year for the benefits to be felt. Briefing Parliament on the state of the economy, he however noted that despite the marginal gains made so far, the threat of volatility still exists, and therefore the need for government not to relent.
Delivering an urgent statement on the floor of Parliament about the current state of the country's economy, Finance Minister Osei Tekwe first explained why the economy is experiencing the current challenges.
The economy came under severe stress, particularly on the fiscal front, on account of exceptional factors that include implementation challenges associated with the single spine wage policy, significant shortfall in grants from our development partners, non-realization of projected revenue from oil companies due mainly to shortfall in projected output in 2011 and 2012, larger than expected petroleum and utility subsidies, and a continued disruption in gas supply to the country from the West Africa gas pipeline that led to a substantial increase in subsidies and reduction in output.
He stated government's National Fiscal Stabilization Levy, together with the special import levy on some imported goods, are expected to yield an estimated 630 million Ghana cedis by the end of the year, contributing 0.2% of GDP.
Mr. Speaker, in addition to the revenue measures, expenditure rationalization measures were also introduced for purposes of achieving the fiscal target for the year. These include regular adjustment of fuel and utility prices to achieve better targeting and thereby reduce related subsidies to the barest minimum, and processing of all GOG expenditures on the gift list and classifying them under a revised chart of accounts for all government transactions.
Tekwe later re-echoed some interventions in the 2014 budget that should strengthen government's revenue and expenditure regimes.
The following revenue measures are being implemented. Increase of the VAT rate by 2.5 percentage points and a broadening of the base to cover fee-based financial services and real estate, and an increase in withholding tax on management and technical services also from 15 to 20%. An increase in corporate income tax rate of free zones companies selling on the local market from 8 to 25%.
The Ghana Investment Promotion Center GIPC Act, according to the Finance Minister, will be reviewed to ensure that exemptions granted by GIPC are consistent with government's exemption policy. Government, he added, is meanwhile migrating all its transactions to a new chart of accounts to facilitate greater transparency.
There have been mixed reactions to the statement delivered by the finance minister, especially among MPs. So it's a banter in the House between Information Minister Mama Yarga and MP for Old Tafo, Dr. Kutose, over comments made by the latter on the state of the country's economy.
We have consensus now on a number of key issues that we should be dealing with as a country. We have consensus on the debt issues. We have consensus on the challenges of our wage bill. We have consensus on the issues of revenue mobilization. We have consensus on the challenges of our deficits. And we have consensus on the need for us to look at the way forward in terms of developing the infrastructure of this country.
I say that we have a consensus. On Saturday, just on Saturday, he said he did not have a consensus with the minister. He said it on Saturday. So I'm glad that he's changed his mind between Saturday. We are going forward.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, I was on a radio platform with him, and we're discussing a lecture by Dr. Bawumia. And I said to him that there is nothing that Dr. Bawumia has said that this finance minister has not already said. And there's no recommendation that Dr. Bawumia has made that this finance minister is not already implementing and implementing more.
Mr. Speaker, and then he went further. He went further to say, I want to state on this platform, the minister is giving me a hard time. That's what he said. That's the part I'm referring to. So now that you've changed your mind, it's okay. We are going forward.
Mr. Speaker, I would have wished the finance minister will replace the word challenge to crisis. Because, and my colleagues have said...
Honorable member, don't provoke debate. Don't provoke debate.
Mr. Speaker, I would have wished he had used crisis instead of challenges, because this particular activity that is happening this morning is unprecedented. Has
Mr.
never
Speaker,
happened.
Honorable Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Yeah. I also want to at least add that the single spine wage policy was also meant to motivate workers to produce, because productivity in the country is very low. And I want to call on my colleagues in leadership of labor to not only focus on talking about conditions of service, but also putting in place motivational incentives from their own perspective to increase productivity.
Now, transport fares are likely to go up following an increase in the prices of some petroleum products. Petrol effective this morning is selling at 2 Ghana cedis 73 pesos from 2 Ghana cedis 55 pesos on the litre. The prices of diesel, LPG, kerosene and premix have all gone up in line with the National Petroleum Authority's review of petroleum prices every 2 weeks. The Greater Accra chairman of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, Robert Saba, says passengers cannot escape a fare increase this time, adding that they intend to meet on the matter on Thursday.
The passengers can expect an increment this time around. Passengers will not escape from increments in lorry fare. This is not our making. If Ghanaians could recall, last January, when we increased the lorry fare by 20%, that was on the 27th of January. 1st February, there was an increment of 3%. We kept our members at bay. We prevented them from, any increment. On the 1st of March, there was another increment of 6.25%. And we exhibited the character of not increasing the lorry fare. We told our members, they complied. But today, we've been slapped by 7.60%. And we cannot continue to run at a loss. Well, we'll be meeting on Thursday, where, all the executives who have been invited will express their opinions. And you are aware that out of many opinions, a decision can be made. And therefore, when the decision comes, we'll make it known to the general public. It was just a surprise to us. We've continuously appealed to the NPA so that at least, they get us involved. So that when we have this information, when we get wind of this information, we would also transmit same to our members by inciting them up, whether to increase or not to increase. They are the creation of all these chaotic situations that we see at our various stations between passengers and the drivers and mates, which are most unfortunate and must be condemned by all right-seeking members of the Ghanaian society.
Greater Accra chairman of the GPRTU, Robert Saba, was speaking there on JN Interactive. That was a short while ago. In other news, the sole commissioner of judgment there, Justice Jawapal, has called for the separation of the Attorney General's Department from the Ministry of Justice. The commission has attributed some huge compensation paid to claimants to the failure of the AG's department to defend the state.
Failure of state attorneys to appear in court to defend the state has been blamed for many of the judgment debt cases the Commission has heard. In many of the cases, the Commission heard the state attorney's failure to appear in court has led to the award of default judgment against the state, which also tend to accumulate interest because the state fails to pay over a long period. Justice Yawa Pao lamented the poor attitude of state attorneys.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important because if the Attorney General is also a Minister of Justice and is always, very much involved in political issues, cabinet meetings, and leaves the legal matters to the chief state attorney, they do their own thing. We should have an Attorney General who will be very serious with matters involving, suits against the state, because that's where all the monies are going to the drain. They don't have time to supervise the state attorneys who handle the cases in court. They take the Solicitor General, the DPPs, when they distribute the cases, the lawyers don't go to court. That's all. Then default judgment. For several years back, cases involving government and the Attorney General will not bother at all. Then when judgment is taken and then the properties of the state, Bank of Ghana, are garnished, then you see them running helter-skelter.
His comments came on the back of a 254,643 Ghana cedis paid 1 Peter Aban during the construction of the Kanda Highway in 1993.
I think it's high time the state took a second look at the caliber of lawyers that are recruited to the Attorney General's office. It's serious. It's always default judgment. The state matters, we don't defend them. But if it is an individual matter, we rush to court. For years, it will be dragging on. But state or within MEMS closed, the money paid, then people share.
Counsel for the Commission, Dometi Kofi Sokpo, also stressed Ghana will not lose huge sums to judgment debts if state attorneys were committed to challenging such claims.
All that we have throughout these our sittings is that most of the time they do not go to court to project the feelings or interest of the states. If they had gone to defend, these judgments wouldn't be given at all. In fact, if they are going to defend, there was the possibility that the other party would have lost. Because the records that we have before us, most of them are involve cases that could easily be defended and won. Yes, but because you are not there, and the judge will certainly, do what the law requires him to do for the party that is serious about his or her case that he has put before the court.
The Attorney General's Department, Lands Commission and Urban Roads will later appear to assist the Commission in its investigations into that particular issue of Kanda Highway compensations. Matilda Pomaga for Joy News, Accra.
The Brahafo Regional Security Council has issued a 2-week ultimatum to members of the old Dokochina community near the Bui hydroelectric dam in the Brahafo region to relocate or risk forceful eviction. The RECTEC chairman at the news conference in Sunyani said the council will deem it imperative to use the necessary force at its disposal to ensure that the dam and the generation station are preserved in the national interest. Nestor Kafuya Joma sent this report.
Joy News first reported about the presence of the illegal miners at Old Dokochina in the Banda district some months ago. The Brahafo Regional Security Council subsequently sent a fact-finding team to the area on February 25 this year. Based on the report of the fact-finding team, RECSEC, in consultation with the National Security Council, decided to drive the people out of the area. According to the regional minister, inhabitants of 6 villages in the catchment area of the dam were relocated by the Bui Power Authority in 2011 to pave way for the construction of the dam, but 6 households at Dokochina failed to relocate. Paul Evanseidu further stated that illegal mining and other illicit activities have taken center stage in some areas of the Bui National Park, including the fringes of the dam, which is believed to contain deposits of gold-bearing rocks. He mentioned illegal fishing, illegal and indiscriminate logging, as well as trading in narcotics as a direct effect of the refusal by the people of Old Dokochina, led by one Edward Kojokuma, to be resettled. The regional minister consequently stressed that the unacceptable situation calls for immediate and decisive action by RegSec in order to safeguard the priceless national asset from being destroyed by self-seekers.
Contrary to the Siani High Court ruling, the self-imposed chief and the occupants of the state's households have continued to reside at Dokochina. Furthermore, the unwillingness of the state's households to relocate has led to foreign nationals from neighboring countries, including Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and even China, invading the area with impunity. Reports indicate that the locals and the foreigners are engaged in all manners of illegal activities, such as illegal mining, illegal labyrinth, illegal fishing, narcotic drugs, prostitution, illegal trading in various currencies, and trading in general goods, among others, which pose a great threat to the preservation of the Bui Dam and the Bui National Park.
Meanwhile, Joy News has learned that illegal mining is gradually spreading to other parts of the Bui National Park, which also needs immediate attention and protection. Nesta Kafuya Jomes report for Joy News.
This year's May-June West Africa Senior School Certificates Examination WASSCE began across the country Tuesday. 242,152 candidates in all, comprising 126,919 males and 115,238 females, are expected to sit for the exam in 809 centers. A number of the candidates at the Nungwa Presbyterian Senior High Commercial School were, however, barred from sitting the first paper today for non-payment of their school fees. According to them, the school authorities prevented them from entering the school premises until some of them had settled their indebtedness to the school.
Most of the affected students had left the premises, except for those who managed to find monies to settle the outstanding fees.
I felt really bad because I have meant to write my final year exams because I have suffered a lot. But they insisted not for me to write the exams. I went back home to take money before I came back to pay my school fees before they were able to allow me to write my exams.
The others who had no problems with the authorities spoke to Joy News about their first paper.
Every student is expected to do their best, and all we want is excellence out of all the investment our parents have invested on us and all the things they've done. So I'll say this is the time for us to appreciate what they have done and come out with good grades so that they'll be happy.
Prepared very well towards this exam because we've toiled for this and the day has come. So as it has come, we know we can't do it by our own wisdom, but by praying to God and with assistance that the teachers has given us so far, being here for 2.5 years.
The exams continue tomorrow with practical science papers.
We're taking a break. We have more stories coming up. Stay tuned. Inmates at the country's prisons are to be screened for various health ailments courtesy a national mobile clinic exercise. The program, which took off today at the Nsawam prisons, laid bare the serious challenges at the infirmary there. The Ministry of Health is, however, promising to improve the situation so the infirmaries can better cater for the health needs of inmates.
In the country, it has over 3,700 inmates, half of whom are remand prisoners. Despite the huge number of inmates, only about a third of the prisoners are registered under the National Health Insurance Scheme. The overcrowding situation, according to prison officials, poses a great health risk to inmates and healthcare delivery. The medical director at the Nsawam Government Hospital, Dr. Kofi Ablo, expressed concern that health cases from the prisons to the hospitals are usually brought very late and sometimes at an advanced stage, making treatment very difficult.
We see close to about 500 inmates in a year. Most cases that we see are respiratory, cataracts. We've seen a couple of glaucoma. So these are the conditions that we normally see at the hospital. If you are able to get these people, you can work on them as early as possible, and then you avoid the complications thereof.
Officials say the lack of logistics and facilities at the prison's infirmary have made healthcare delivery very challenging. The theatre at the infirmary, for instance, has been abandoned for years now. Several of the infirmary theatre equipment has also been left to waste, and there is currently no resident doctor and ambulance to help deal with emergencies.
The population as it stands this morning, 3,700, we don't have a single ambulance to take care of the inmates' needs and adequate health staff. I'll be most grateful if you second some to us. If you don't have doctors, be the qualified nurses to support our infirmary. Again, inadequate supply of essential drugs and reagents for the laboratory, and we are happy that today you are here to provide drugs for our inmates.
Sector Minister Sharia Ite, who was taking around the facility, promised to give it a facelift.
We have looked at the theatre, and we think that we can rehabilitate the theatre into at least an appreciable, status to allow doctors to carry out at least minor operations here. The assignments of a resident doctor will be taken care of immediately, and I think in addition to a medical doctor, we will also bring some nurses, because we have women here, and perhaps a midwife, that will also take care of the women's gynecological problems.
Inmates during the health screening could not hide their frustration as some screamed for remission. The National Mobile Clinic exercise is set for 5 days to screen inmates at the Nsawam prisons, followed by other prisons across the country.
The West Africa Contract Monitoring Network is asking government not to sign on to new social contracts without securing the needed funds to prevent those projects from stalling. The network also called on civil society organizations to consistently monitor the procurement processes and contracts of government to make them transparent and accountable.
To effectively monitor and improve governance in national public procurement and contracting processes and outcomes, the World Bank established the West Africa Contract Monitoring Network, WACOM, in 2010. WACOM after embarking on a 2-year project to build capacity and monitor the procurement processes and execution of some key contracts in Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia and Sierra Leone, observed that the projects have stalled, particularly due to lack of funds.
In Ghana, the coalition led by the Ghana Integrity Initiative monitored road construction, the Lateshi Road and the Asin-Prasu Road. When you compare the Lateshi Road to the road they monitored in the central region, the Asin-Prasu Road, that road is Japanese government funded, and I can assure you, when we went on that road, you could see that work has been done. It was going on. It's only because the Japanese had money and supporting the project. So it went on quickly. So if you compare the two, you could see that there's a problem when government, commits to projects that it does not have the needed funding. So we think that is a problem. And as we have drawn attention, we are hoping that this will be able to be addressed by government in future.
The World Bank, which offered over $100,000 for the project, pledged its continuous support.
Social accountability mechanisms, as you know, the range of them out there, participatory budgeting, performance monitoring, participatory expenditure tracking. There are a range of them that some of you are involved in, do play a crucial role in the demand for good governance. And that agenda is increasingly, getting a lot of focus from the bank. The whole notion of citizen engagement is becoming critical in the development agenda. And so this is a piece of that work. And so we are increasingly going to be focusing attention on providing support for civil society.
Acting Director of Public Prosecutions, Cynthia Lamte, deputizing the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, lauded the Wakam project and indicated that while government is implementing a number of commitments on ensuring transparency and accountability in governance, there are several challenges they need to overcome.
We need to change people's attitudes and behaviors towards politics and government. That changing their behaviors from one of patron-client to one of active citizenship will take time, especially since patrons resist any move that can diminish or take their powers away. Another challenge we are facing is that until now, the change in civil society's perspectives on constructive engagement is still limited. We need to move from critical collaboration to collaborative engagement if we truly want social accountability to work.
She, however, mentioned that government will incorporate the lessons from the Wakam project to ensure greater social accountability and constructive engagement with state authorities.
President John Mahama began his meetings in Brussels on Tuesday with a call for Africa's integration process to begin with a strengthening of structures in the various countries. Speaking at a high-level meeting to discuss an AFDB commissioned report on the fragility of some states, President Mahama shared efforts to bridge the poverty gap in Ghana.
According to officials on the trip with President Mahama, the AFDB report says rather than classify specific nations as fragile states, fragility should be classified as a natural risk within the development process, which has led to rapid transformation on the African continent. In his speech, President Mahama indicated militarization and faithlessness in states by its citizens are results of inequality, and that must be addressed urgently. He said the wide gap between the rich and the poor in society as economies accelerate requires a proper social safety net of protection for the vulnerable. He shared Ghana's establishment of District Assemblies Common Fund, into which between 5 and 8% of gross national revenue are transferred directly to the district assemblies and how that has worked for Ghana. He added the dispensation of the fund is at the discretion of the district. President Mahama said addressing inequality through decentralization and fiscal empowerment must be taken into account if Africa is to strengthen its nations. He also spoke about supporting democratic institutions and youth unemployment as areas that need urgent attention. He concluded by reiterating a will to push firmly the integration of Africa's economies, in which, he says, the comparative growth for African countries lie. The president is in Brussels, Belgium, for bilateral meetings.
Well, international relations expert Dr. Vladimir Nchudanso wants President Mahama to address domestic challenges if he is to succeed as Ecowas chairman. Analyzing his chances of succeeding in his new role, Dr. Nchudanso told Joy News' Gifty Ando-Apia the president's overall performance is also largely dependent on sub-regional cooperation and dedication to the vision he has set for himself.
I've been very critical of his economic policies, some political issues, appointments, and that's me, I'm an intellectual. President Mahama, where integration is concerned, stands tall, period.
President John Mahama has already indicated he'll focus on peace and security, economic integration and infrastructural development for the Ecowas states. Dr. Vladimir Nchudanso says these can be effectively executed in the sub-region if Ghana's domestic situation is at least stabilized.
He really needs to fix the home front. But fixing the home front does not necessarily mean that he has to succeed fully at home. The people of Ghana, if they understand the president and there is peace and security back home, then translating it onto the subcontinent will not be a difficulty. Prudent economic management in such a way that the economy would stabilize so that we don't have any insecurity issues back home, where you are the chairman of the association or the chairman of Ecowas, and all of a sudden Ecowas will rather have to come and help you to douch fires. The economy will be so much in tatters that you would need the support of ECOWAS countries. Then, whatever you set yourself to do on the ECOWAS front will fizzle out.
He further suggests President Mahama must build on legacies of his predecessors as well as former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan in leading such organizations.
And Ghana's leadership are the UN, Security Council, Ghana was able to show how to put the big powers to listen. That was a big plus to Ghana. It was during Rawlings' era that we were able to form ECOMOG. That was a personal plus to Rawlings. Several people wanted to run away from the main focus of the AU, the stature of Kufuor. His demeanor, his diplomatic prowess were brought to bear on the AU. This is the time to show. This is the time to continue. President Mahama cannot fail.
The security threat presented by Boko Haram in Nigeria, an impending post-coup election in Guinea-Bissau, and the stability needed in Mali, coupled with the difficulty to intertrade among Ecowas states, are some of the major hurdles President Mahama is set to deal with. Dr. Enchidanso says although a year is not enough to achieve major breakthroughs, the president must bring his leadership to bear on these and court the cooperation of his colleague leaders.
If you have started a situation where the leader of the group is not on talking terms with the other members of the group, it becomes a problem. Our president, I don't think, has that problem with other people. And so his demeanor is one plus. Two, using Ghana as a comparatively stable country to show to the others that we want to use this platform to work on the others. So he will be able to dodge the fires in Mali, and he mentioned it clearly, if and only if ECOWAS gives him the support. Other than that, if ECOWAS leadership is not going to give him the support, he will fail.
Ghana was chosen above Gambia's Yaya Jammeh and Liberia's Sirleaf Johnson by heads of the ECOWAS states. Gifty Andopia, Joy News, Accra.
A 16-month-old baby of Sunyani in Kwabeng in the Branhafu region who is suffering from hydrocephalus needs immediate medical attention to survive. Blessing Pokwa developed the condition in her 3rd month after birth. Her parents need to raise 3,000 Ghana cedis for surgery at Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. And all efforts to correct this condition has been without a result due to financial difficulties.
According to Esther Usua, the mother of little Blessing Pokuya, the condition was detected in the 3rd month when she reported to the Sunyani Regional Hospital. The baby was then referred to the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital, where the first surgical operation was performed at a cost of 1,500 Ghana cedis. A second surgical operation was supposed to be conducted in February this year, but the parents do not have the required money. Frustrated mother Esther Osu appeals for support from the general public to save her daughter's life.
Because of Trinity, Timbia was Omoji at hospital, the last time Omoji at all. The dry almost young Koto, Yantin, Tistola, who she and us, they so near Drew, even do baby cry, wedding.
Up next, we bring you business news.
To get you updated with some business news, my name is Abigail Adomakwinchi. Now, Minister of State in charge of private sector development, Rashid Perpo, has identified the private sector as a crucial partner in taking Ghana to the next level.
Rashid Pelpo was addressing investors at a groundbreaking 5-day private investors forum in London to showcase the many investment opportunities available in Ghana's private sector. The forum, organized by Direct Access Ghana, a private establishment in the United Kingdom, brought together lead investors who have keen interest in Ghana's private sector development. The chairman of Direct Access Ghana and CEO of Abiam Group of Companies, Abiam Ampomadanso, has been mandated to represent Ghana's concern to drive potential international investors to boost the private sector.
Access Africa or Access Ghana, we have decided that we will be mediator and to make sure that nobody goes to Ghana or Africa to go through that hustle, having 419 here and there. This one will say, I know this minister, I know this president, and then at the end of the day, you end up, being in the wrong place or wrong hands, and then your investment will be in jeopardy. So we decided that we will set up this and then also go into the ministers and making sure that they themselves will have a contact with every investor or every businessman or every businesswoman. And so Access Ghana is all about getting contact with the ministers and the president, and also
Rashid Pelpo on his part noted that Ghana enjoys rule of law, fair play, democratic peace, and are a friendly people.
Our effort is to push it to the higher level middle income economy. But that means that we would need to partner the private sector. More and more, it is a challenge for the budgets or for the economy to sponsor all the public projects that we want to embark on. And so there's a need for us to stretch our hands, help develop the private sector, and give the private sector the space it will require to invest in Ghana, to benefit from its investment, and we benefit from the efficiency, the drive, and quality of service of the private sector.
The program was hosted by Simmons & Simmons LLP, Nabarro, the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Law Society of England and Wales.
Laws such as the Public Procurement Act, the Financial Administration Act and its regulations, the Assets Declaration Act, the Whistleblower Act and the Anti-Money Laundering Act point to government's commitment to fighting corruption. The lack of effective implementation of these regulations in Ghana is, however, said to be hindering accountability in the public sector, a situation experts believe would have to change. These were views expressed by experts at a public lecture to mark the 50th anniversary of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana.
These experts were speaking at a public lecture that forms part of activities to mark the 50th anniversary of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana. Ghana's public sector is believed to employ more than a tenth of the people needed and gobbles up about 70% of tax revenues collected. Many of these public servants, however, find their salaries inadequate and therefore think up schemes to increase their incomes, some of which are often fraudulent. Professor Cletus Dodonu believes Ghana's public sector management is characterized by the lack of systemic data collection, which makes it impossible for office holders to provide accurate information, leading to the repetition of budgetary targets year after year.
Do not implement our budget. We do about 20 to 30% of the implementation, and we re-echo it again and again. So you see some roads, projects, and so on in budgets which were born before Christ was born. They are still in the 2014 budget.
Professor Cletus Dodonu said Ghana has no defense when a country like Nigeria, which is known for a state of corruption, accuses the nation as being more corrupt.
You know, Lagos has a lot of water all over. They have these bridges all over. It can do about 6 of them, the money we use to do that. Whatever exchange rate you do, it can do 6. So if a Nigerian says Ghanaians are much more corrupt than them, at least you should say, yo. In other words, even the public servant population ratio is 500. Our own is 600.
Yoni Kulendi was of the opinion Ghana's challenge with accountability has more to do with the people interpreting the law rather than the lack of good laws. He called on legal practitioners to stop giving different interpretations to existing laws.
You have a constitutional indemnity from self-incrimination. You cannot be asked a question that you will answer or be required to provide evidence which will be used against you. If you chose to proceed by a constitutional inquiry, you can provide evidence which is against you. But the trade-off is that you are told or guaranteed that this evidence will not be used against you in a prosecution.
Ghana's refusal to utilize the right and best professionals on the field has been identified as one of the various factors hampering true accountability.
We'll do some news on agriculture now, and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture says it is effecting stringent measures aimed at rescuing the failing livestock and poultry industry. At a conference to promote agriculture commodity trade between Ghana and the U.S. Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Hannah Bissue, indicated existing laws were being enforced to cut back on poultry imports.
Ghana's poultry imports is said to have quadrupled since 2002, increasing at 5% each year. According to the Agric Ministry, U.S. poultry imports to Ghana have also increased from 24% to 31% in the last 5 years. But this has come at a cost to local poultry producers who have been driven out of the market. In an effort to revitalize the local industry, the ministry has stressed it is strictly enforcing the quota regime that allows importation of only 100 metric tons of poultry products per quarter.
You can't clear any container that contains poultry and meat products without permit.
So what of those that have already landed on our ports?
A lot of these containers are going to have to go back to their country of origin. The new policy direction is that before we give any importer permit to bring in a kilo of any form of poultry or meat product into Ghana, you must first of all show us a proof of purchase in form of a receipt from a local farmer. It means that if you want to bring in 100 metric tons or 200 metric tons, let's put it, 100 metric tons, you'll be required to buy about 40 metric tons from a local producer.
She says the ministry plans to regulate importation of pork after realizing the subsector is also failing. Though Ghanaian producers can export peanuts and pineapples to the U.S., the West Africa Advisor of Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service of USDA, Connie Bacon, explained these produce would be rejected if they do not meet required safety standards.
If it is a product that is regulated by Animal Health Plant Inspection Service, then it must comply with those regulations. The first step for plant products is that it must be a country-to-country request for market access. So the government of Ghana must contact the government of the U.S., ask for market access. So shelled peanuts, so peanuts out of the shell, and pineapples, fresh pineapples, can be exported at this time to the U.S.
The Deputy Minister also hinted the ministry is preparing a hatchery bill which will manage the quality of day-old chicks produced.
And that'll be all for business. My name is Abigail Adumakwentri. Sports is up next.
Sports, and we first of all start here in the country, and the die has been cast for the final qualifying stage for the group phase of the CAF Confederations Cup, and Ghana's sole representatives Barima Osei have drawn 2012 champions of the CAF competition. SC have been drawn against tricky Congolese side AC Leopards in the final qualifying round of the CAF Confederations Cup following a draw at the CAF headquarters in Cairo. The Mauve and Yellows will travel to Congo for the first leg tie scheduled for the weekend of April 18 to 20, with a reverse fixture billed to take place a week later at the Secondary Stadium. Leopards, who won the CAF Confederations Cup in 2012, were relegated from the Champions League by Sudanese powerhouse Al Hilal. Medeama can chalk an amazing feat if they progress to the group phase of Africa's elite interclub competition. They have managed successes over Panthers FC, Mas of Morocco and Zesco United of Zambia, and are confronted with a final hurdle against the former champions. Now, Switzerland's World Cup coach Otmar Hitzfeld is in Ghana for a 2-day visit and spent some time with football fans at the Silver Bird Cinema during the Champions League quarter-final between Manchester United and Bayern Munich this evening. He's scheduled to meet several high-profile personalities during his stay, including officials from the Ghana Football Association. Hitzfeld has been speaking to Joy Sports on his visit.
Yes, ever since I was invited by allsports.com, I was really looking forward to my trip, and it is a very nice welcome here in Ghana. and I'm also looking forward to meeting my former players here in Ghana. Really happy that allsports.com.gh invited me here. I'm also the representative of Ringier, and I'm here with my friend Mark Wilder, who's CEO of Ringier. And I'm also looking forward to be interacting with various local stakeholders in sports here in Ghana, and I'm looking forward to see more of Ghana. Of course, the game will be very, very exciting. I still have a close relationship with Bayern Munich and with Uli Hoeneß, and I'm really looking forward to the game.
Let's talk about the UEFA Champions League, and in an incredible game and scoreline at the Old Trafford, Manchester United were able to deny Bayern Munich a goal haul. Actually, it's on April's full day, so you want to say that maybe Bayern Munich know what they're doing. The scoreline was 1-1. Manchester United have done very well. Let's first of all go over to this and look at how the goals were scored. I have to say congratulations to Manchester United. It was a result that nobody expected, really. And let's put all of this into perspective in terms of how it all happened. Manchester United and Bayern Munich drawing 1-1. So we'll find out what happens at the Allianz Arena later on. That's going to be just the next week. Let's talk about the other game between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. There's a lot to talk about here. Barcelona's season has been pretty inconsistent, and Atletico Madrid are putting Stokes into that particular one. Atletico Madrid getting the goals through Diego Costa, and Neymar also getting the goal for Barcelona. So these ties are delicately poised. We'll find out who qualifies to the next stage actually next week when we get the return one. Let's look at the goals there, and then of course this is what happened out there in the game, and you can see very well Diego Costa getting the first goal for Atletico Madrid and Neymar getting the equalizer for Barcelona. So great stats out there. And of course, you know, the other game between Manchester United and Bayern Munich ended 1-1, and there you have it. Rooney, the man there for Manchester, Vidic actually getting the goal for Manchester United, and then Schweinsteiger getting a wonderful goal for Bayern Munich. So tomorrow we'll find out what Israel's Chelsea would do against PSG, and of course Real Madrid up against Borussia Dortmund. That'll be all for sports. Have a good night.
Now, 1st April is a day many people pull all manner of pranks on others. Despite the many stories that make the rounds about people being pranked, people keep falling each year. Showbiz takes a look at some of the notable pranks.
It is often said that dress as you want to be addressed, and your choice of shoes really spell out a chunk of your personality whenever you step out in public. Strangers can tell a lot about you just by checking out your footwear. At least, that is according to researchers from the University of Kansas and Wellesley College. A young Ghanaian entrepreneur, Tony Senaya, who has found the inspiration to go into shoemaking under the brand name Husband Shoes, shares a few tips on what to consider when choosing those pair of shoes.
Normally, comfort shoes should be a priority before you look at style, and the nature of your foot should also inform you the type of shoes that you want. Some people.
All right, so the story almost pranked us on April Fool's Day. Here's the real story on April Fool.
April Fool's Day, sometimes called All Fool's Day, is one of the most light-hearted days of the year. Its origins are uncertain. Some see it as a celebration related to the turn of the seasons, while others believe it stems from the adoption of a new calendar. Marking the day in Ghana, our sister station Joy FM fashioned a hype about new beginnings on the station, including the bowing out of Cosmopolitan mix host Doreen Ando after 19 years on radio effective April 1, as well as student voices taking over the Super Morning Show effective the same day. Well, you can trust that Doreen will be on your dial 997 for the rest of the days, weeks, years ahead. And for those who expected those soothing voices on the Super Morning Show, other than the regular hosts, tuned into a surprise. Ani Osabute and Ni Aitego, an unexpected pair, serving a perfect delight on April Fool's Day. On social media also, a few exciting stories sprung up. Some of these stories include Asam Wejan to get married next month, father of Miss Bell's son finally revealed, America's Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj to perform live in Ghana on May 3. For Lidley J, she posted this video on YouTube.
I want to be with you. There's nobody else that I want to be with but...
Professing her love for a guy called K. Let me share with you excerpts. You may just count yourself lucky for not falling victim to any of these pranks. For those who did, think smarter next year.
I wasn't pranked today. That's it for Showbiz.
Showbiz.
And that'll be all for the bulletin. Before I go to a quick run through our top stories, the finance minister has reiterated measures to address current economic challenges he says will take more than a year to bear fruits. Transport fares had to go up following the increase in fuel prices effective Tuesday. Brahafo Regional Security Council gives 2-week ultimatum for Dokochena residents cited in Galamsey activities threatening Bui Dam to relocate. International relations expert urges President Mahama to address domestic challenges if he is to succeed in his new role as Ecowas chairman. And so, Commissioner for Judgment Debt adds to calls for decoupling of Attorney General's Office for Ministry of Justice. That'll be all for the bulletin. My name is Israel Live. Very good evening.